Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This session is about social networks and language. I hope by the end of this session you would have some know-how of what are social networks and how do they operate. Well, my dear students, in terms of definition, social networks can be defined as the relationships of individuals that contract with others, reaching out through social and geographical linking or spaces that many individuals have. So it's more like that whole web of connectivities or interconnectivities that exist in terms of interactions in a society. Social network theory was first introduced in sociolinguistics from sociology, and in fact it is already used in it before it was introduced in sociolinguistics. It was already used in so many other disciplines. For example, it was used to see how there are certain impacts in relation to certain innovations in certain societies. How I would give you an example of that is, for example, how certain fashions, for example, the use of the sneakers or trainers in a particular society, spreads, or how a particular technology, for example, or a particular kind of, for example, a mobile phone, when it is introduced in the market, etc., how its use spreads in the society. Who are the first buyers and how does it, disseminate into the society gradually. These kind of studies had already been made. Well, my dear students, in this process of, grouping people into different social classes, actually the process of compartmentalizing people is carried out, and it is seen how different social groups network with each other, how they interact with each other in certain ways. Social networks are defined by who your friends are, whom do you meet, with whom you have your dinners or lunches, with whom, for example, you go to cinema, and with whom do you work at your workplace, etc. And in fact, network analyses also ask how often the members of all these groups are same and how often they are different, how frequently they meet, and how they do not meet at certain times. So, from the sociolinguistic point of view, it becomes very important to study these social networks because they give us insights into the patterns of social associations of people with other people and of groups, both the intra-group, that is within the group, and the intergroup, that is of one group to the other group. Now, why is it so significant? Because the diffusion of linguistic change happens relatively fast and very efficiently along what we might call horizontal channels this way, the equal groups in the society. So this is important for sociolinguistic researchers to study because, for example, people of same age, people of same profession, people of same social class, etc., who are placed equally, in this direction horizontally, any change would spread in this network speedily as compared to the vertical networks where, there is a hierarchy, for example, the upper class and the lower class, for example, as the, educated and the illiterate, for example, the old age and the young, etc. So, when they're placed this way, the change does not disseminate quickly through them. I hope this common example of where, kids talk like their friends, not like their parents, would help you understand, the same age group where it works like a horizontal channel, not a vertical channel of parents and of children. So how can we identify a social network becomes one important question, and one way of doing that is that the researcher observes in a society who interacts with whom. Noticing the linking of people, who meets whom, who interacts with whom would help. As you would keep on observing that, slowly some patterns of this interaction would emerge, which can be called networks or social networks working in that society. This method has its own advantage in terms of being objective because the researcher is objective in that not taking sides. The other way of doing that is that you may ask, as a researcher, you may ask the respondents or the participants of a society that who are, for example, your best friends, or name all the people you had conversation with yesterday, etc. Through this, you can trace, the processes and the patterns of networking. However, probably there would be differences in the answers of people. The problem with this is that Tim might name Nick as his best friend, whereas Nick may not in return, return the same favor and may not name him as the best friend. So there would be confusions and there would be, problems of subjectivity and personal choices that would make it difficult as a sociolinguistic researcher for you to analyze these social networks. Well, I hope you also have some idea of what are loose networks and what are dense networks. Dense networks are where the same people are very closely related and they frequently meet each other, whereas the as compared to the dense networks, the loose networks are where people do not frequently meet the same people. The ties are comparatively looser and they go here and there are people who keep on coming into the network and going out of that. In all this context, what I would like to add here in the context of social media and virtual media is the existence of virtual networks in today's world. The existence of virtual networks is unprecedented in today's times. We don't find any examples of it in the previous human history. Because of this social media use, the changes that have come in the social and sociolinguistic dimensions of social networking and language use, these virtual networks emerge as a very, very important area that needs to be dealt with and that needs to be explored in sociolinguistics.